You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Subcheck.
Hi, and welcome to episode 100 of The Art of Sales. And I am starting with a big thank you. As I mentioned before, when I started this thing just under a year ago, I hoped that someone would listen, but really wasn't sure. Well, thanks to you, both my existing followers who have been with me for some time, in some cases years, and to those of you who just found me last week, I really appreciate you. And to every one of you who has recommended this show to someone else, either personally or on social media, or given me a rating or review, you are making a difference because you are helping other people benefit from the tips and strategies that we share here. And thanks to all the guests we had on and who took their time to share their expertise with us. All right, today's show. When I recorded my first episode, actually it was the introduction before episode 1, I mentioned my sales philosophy, which is to provide common sense, conversational, non-cheesy sales advice. And of course, that also includes ethical tips and techniques, which there shouldn't be any other type, right? These ethical techniques that don't slide into the gray area. Although today, we don't see as much of the hard sell, sleazy tactics that are often associated with sales, but sadly, they're still out there. I was doing some research, like I always do, looking for new ideas to share with my subscribers and clients, and I found an online article that was titled, get this, "No successful salesperson is too proud to use any of these 12 shameless tactics." So of course that got my attention. I'm not even going to give credit to the author, but supposedly he's a sales consultant. And you can look it up if you want. The amazing thing is that this article appeared on entrepreneur.com, what typically is a reputable site. So I'm going to share his 12 tactics and then give you my own comments. And as for his title, well, let me just preface everything I'm going to say with this. Actually, many of us successful salespeople are indeed too proud and ethical to use most of these tactics. Let's take a look at them. Number 1 is ignore his office number and call his cell phone. The author suggests that if the cell number is on his email signature or anywhere else, it's not private. Then he suggests calling very early or late and saying you thought it was his office phone and you were just going to leave a message, which is a blatant lie. Now, maybe I'm behind the times here on this and a bit old school, but I feel that calling someone's mobile should be reserved for situations where you have explicit permission to do so. Number 2, ask for him or her by first name, as in Dave, please. Of course, the thinking here is that you will somehow trick the screener into thinking you are an acquaintance of Dave. That's their words. Might it work? Well, sure. But my philosophy is, let's work with the assistant, not try to go around them or trick them into anything. Number 3, get this. Say you're returning his call. Oh my God. This was actually in the article. And then here's what they said. This was actually in the article. Okay, this may be shameless lying, but on the scale of lying, it's pretty far down the list. Apparently the author has a big gray area ethics-wise. He then explains that if the prospect confronts you by saying he never called, you can then shift the blame elsewhere. Oh, someone here said you did. Another lie. Number 4. Send the same email twice, 5 minutes apart. He says to apologize in the second one, saying the first one bounced back. Did he get it? Okay, let's see. If you're keeping score at home with me, 4 tips so far, and we have a total of 4 lies. Number 5, he says to send 6 duplicate emails all at the same time. Really, you can't make this stuff up. He says to apologize in the 7th one that you're having software problems. That's lie number 5, by the way. And hey, how about that open quote that I sent you? Oh my gosh. Number 6, send an email with the subject line, "Are you okay?" 3 question marks. And he says to keep in the multiple question marks. Then you should ask if he's been ill, showing empathy and concern. And then he says, well, of course you're not concerned or sympathetic, but there's a fair chance he'll reply when he thinks you are. If you're keeping score at home, line number 6. Number 7, find the boss. Email his superior with the subject line, "I want to be sure Dave is okay." Mention that you were talking but now can't reach him, and the author reasons it will get forwarded to Dave. Okay, maybe, but it doesn't address why Dave was ignoring you, and it could have the opposite effect since you obviously are going over his head. Number 8, send from a different domain. He reasons that perhaps your company emails are getting filtered, so maybe you could send from a Gmail or a Yahoo account. Okay, finally we're on number 8, and there's one I can approve of. But then he goes to number 9. Spam him. Yes, but it's light spamming, he defends. Put all of your tough-to-reach prospects on a list and bulk email them 3 or 4 times yearly. He emphasizes these are not people who asked to be on your list. You are indeed spamming them. He said that. I'm of the belief that if a tree falls in the woods, it does make noise. And a bad, untargeted email does do damage. So come on, let's get a little bit more creative here. Number 10. Text him. Tell him your emails aren't going through, so you were concerned. Now again, this one's probably a lie. He doesn't admit that in the article, but again, similar to my point on using mobile phones in general, if you don't have permission, I would not text. Number 11, message him on LinkedIn or Facebook. Now, I personally do suggest sending LinkedIn messages, since they're more likely to get read and responded to. However, he leaves out a very critical point. Have something of value when you message. Don't make it all about you. And finally, number 12, tweet at him. Now, this is the only point that even hints at something of value for the prospect. He suggests making it informational, perhaps sharing an article the prospect will get some value from. All right, my congrats to the author. After suggesting numerous lies and acts of deception, we finally have what most people could look at and say, that's a good, solid, ethical tip. Too late, though. I feel like I need a shower to get rid of the sleaze just from presenting this to you. There's no place for lying in professional, ethical sales, and just about every successful salesperson I know feels that same way. All right. So at this point in the show, I always say, hey, you know what time it is. And then, that's right, it's time for the quote of the day. Well, wait, you don't hear the jingle yet. That's because I've had a few listeners say they love the catchy jingle, but they can't make out all the words and they like to sing along in their head. All right, well, you asked, and for our 100th episode, here they are. The words are, your attitude will be high in every way. You'll never fear what they say. It's the art of sales quote of the day. All right, are you ready to sing along?
Your attitude will be high in every way. You'll never fear what they say. It's the art of the sales quote of the day.
There you go. Is that better? Today's quote is from the great Zig Ziglar, and it ties into today's point as it typically does. And Zig's quote was, with integrity, you have nothing to fear, since you have nothing to hide. With integrity, you will do the right thing, so you will have no guilt. All right, so 100 shows in the books, and I want to point out something that should be obvious, but what we think is obvious often isn't, right? So these shows are in no particular order. As one new listener just told me after binge listening to every single one of them, he said it's like a complete sales training class, and he was going to go do it again, taking better notes this time. Hey, if you have an area of sales you need to brush up on, go to the show site, theartofsales.com. Use the search box to look for the topic that you want to work on. And finally, for our 100th episode, will you please do a lot of people a favor? I think we're going to make it here. Go back and pick out one of the episodes that is meaningful for you, copy the URL, and do a quick post on LinkedIn or Facebook and recommend it to your network. You're going to be adding value to your network and others, and they're going to appreciate you, and I will as well. Thank you again for helping me spread the positive sales word and for investing your busy sales time with me today. Until next time, go out and make it your best sales day ever. I'm Art Subcheck.